Got a little fun little history story regarding dinosaurs here. This is actually, I pulled this from pbs.org, and there's a great documentary called American Experience Dinosaur Wars that chronicles this tale. One of the most fantastic things ever is early days of paleontology. We got two guys we're dealing with here, Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, which what a fucking... There was a guy who ran for, I think it was state senate in Alabama named Young Boozer. But I do love Edward Drinker Cope. Which is pretty fun. Marsh was born in 1830 in Lockport, New York, to a family of farmers, and he was able to attend Yale University thanks to his wealthy uncle, George Peabody, who he later forced to build the Peabody Museum, which is still around today. And he went on to study paleontology, which was a relatively new field at the time, and also anatomy in Germany. And when he returned, he became the first professor of paleontology in the United States and worked at the Peabody Museum. How did he get that job? Working for his uncle's museum. And Cope, meanwhile, he was born 9 years later in Philadelphia in 1840 to a wealthy family, showed an interest in science at an early age, like you and I, Kurt, and though he never had formal training as a paleontologist, he studied under Joseph Leidy, who is the professor of anatomy who discovered the first dinosaur remains in North America. So he wasn't like officially trained, but he was hanging out with the original dinosaur guy, and his father sent him away to Europe. If this sounds like something a rich family would do today, let me know. Sent his kid to Europe because A, he wanted to dodge the Civil War, and B, he was fucking a girl his dad didn't like.
Oh, wow.
So he broke him up by shipping him off to Europe.
That's some classic rich guy stuff.
I'm telling you, yeah. Like, oh, you're just having this low-class harlot at our fancy Hamptons party. What, did she roll in with raccoon bones?
And also, you are not going to die in this war.
Yeah, that one too. Yeah. It ain't me. So when he gets to Europe, he meets Marsh, and he was a graduate student at the time. They were pretty friendly, and he became a professor of zoology at Haverford College in Philly after his family's connection got him an honorary master's degree so he could get the job. So again, he didn't earn any of this. His family was just like, here, we'll build a building. You're good.
The honorary degree is like such a red flag.
I know. Yeah. It's so crazy. But yeah, he worked for the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia. And as I said, they had a good relationship. They swapped letters and fossils, manuscripts, and seemed to be friends. And they actually named different species that they found after each other.
Aww.
So,
cute.
At some point, Cope named an amphibian fossil Pioneus marshi, and Marsh returned the favor by naming a giant marine creature Mosasaurus copianus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the mosasaur, the first one was Marsh, and named it for Cope as a little hey, we're buds.
Yeah.
But Marsh's gesture was tinged with betrayal, and things quickly became competitive. As it turns out, Mosasaurus came from a quarry in Haddonfield, New Jersey that Cope was working in, and Cope had shown Marsh this quarry in 1868, but Marsh secretly bribed the owner of the land to inform him anytime he found dinosaurs.
Oh, damn.
Just a fucking dick move right out the bat. Like, here's some money, fucking cut this guy out of this whole thing. And then just as an extra fuck you, it's like that's where they found the mosasaur.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, not only am I going to name it after you, I found it on this land that you had already told me about. Shit like that, just to rub it in. So not long after the double-crossing quarry debacle, Marsh also struck a blow to Cope's ego. Cope had been working on reconstructing an Elasmosaurus, a genus of marine reptile plesiosaur, and in his rush to compete with Marsh, Cope made a humiliating mistake. He put the head at the end of its tail.
Oh, that's so funny.
Just trying to do this shit too quickly. This is going to be like the running theme throughout this. Is for the purpose of expeditiousness, they are trying to get to print before the other person.
Yeah.
So
they just want to be first.
They just want to be first. And this guy literally put the skull on the ass of the dinosaur and published it. Marsh pointed out Cope's error, and it didn't go well. Cope was so humiliated that he tried to buy all the copies of the journal back.
That's a rich guy boss move right there.
Yeah. I'm not wrong. It doesn't exist. Fake news never happens.
Wow.
Yeah. Cope, in turn, began collecting in what Marsh considered his private bone hunting turf in Kansas and Wyoming, further damaging their relationship.
Wars?
Yes, turf wars, straight up, between two dorks on the East Coast. They're like, I have Kansas and Wyoming. You can't dig there. And from then on, Cope and Marsh were rivals, and the rivalry only became more bitter and destructive in the years that followed.
Destructive.
Yes. Oh,
They
yeah.
slept with each other's wives.
I mean-
looking for bones in there.
Much of what came to be known as the Bone Wars played out in Como Bluff, Wyoming, as well as in other parts of the western United States, especially the Morrison Foundation, which preserves much of the Jurassic period as far back as 200 million years. And the discoveries in the Morrison Foundation have taught us that the Jurassic was lush and green, and that dinosaurs, mammals, pterosaurs, crocodiles, and even small amphibians lived during that time. So this thing stretches, the Morrison Foundation and this whole deposit basically stretches across like most of the Great Plains and the Rockies and stuff like that. So to say this is my turf is so crazy because it stretches out over all these states and everything like that.
I mean, we could go out there and find some bones if we wanted to.
It happens all well now. A lot of it's like Bureau of Land Management and stuff like that because of what is about to happen here.
Yeah.
The government was like, okay, we're actually going to claim this right now. So Dinosaur National Park out in Colorado, that's part of this formation and everything like that.
So this is a good idea for a stream. We should go try to find some bones.
Fuck yeah.
But we got to be careful because what if we think we find a dinosaur bone and then they're just human bones?
Now in Los Angeles, that's probably likely.
Then that's great content for the stream.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
what
yeah.
if? Then,
Whoa,
we
found-
go fucking viral.
It would be funny to like roll into the Natural History Museum. Have we got a find for you?
yeah.
And then you're like, this is a baby.
What?
This is a bag of raccoon bones.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Where did you find this? This is a mass grave.
So with so many bones, the Morrison Formation was destined to become a battleground. The Bone Wars started in earnest in 1877 when a geologist named Arthur Lakes discovered massive dinosaur bones near Morrison, Colorado. He tried to alert Marsh to his findings, but Marsh was too slow on the uptake, so he instead sent some samples to Cope. And so, he was writing letters to him, and Marsh apparently was getting interested in mammals. He'd strayed from the dinosaur vision, so he didn't write him back immediately. And so instead he just sent a bunch of bones over to Cope, and that got Marsh's attention. He hired Lakes and sent more of his crew to Colorado to begin the mad dash for dinosaur bones. And Marsh published a description of Lakes' discoveries in the American Journal of Science on July 1st before Cope could publish his interpretation of the finds.
Gotcha.
Bitch. I made it to print.
This is like when Suge Knight copyrighted Chronic 2000, and then they had to call it Chronic 2001. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is Kanye leaking poopity scoop, so Drake can't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the government had to come in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Management.
Yeah, that's right. And put Suge Knight in jail. Lakes wrote to him that the bones should be shipped to Marsh, which was a severe insult to him. So after this comes out, it's like, hey, you should actually give it to this guy you hate.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck you, no. And over the next decade and a half, a gold rush type of mania consumed Cope and Marsh, who constantly tried to outdo one another. So these guys, they have these huge crews going all over the West, and their tactics became shady very quickly. Marsh bribed people to work for him instead of Cope. He even went so far as to have spies track Cope's progress, referring to Cope by the codename B. Jones.
Damn, it used to be good to be a paleontologist.
This sounds
financially
great.
lucrative
Dude.
if you're working for these crazy people.
Like I watch dinosaur like documentaries and shit all the time. The paleontologists now are just they're like us. They're nerds, man.
Also, some of them are lame too because like I love
The
paleontology.
nerds are lame.
They always react to like dinosaur movies like this is inaccurate. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Come on, it's a movie.
Everyone's
We're-
trying to be Neil deGrasse Tyson now.
Yeah, I'm like, if I hear one more paleontologist complain about the Diplosaurus in Jurassic Park 1, I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
it's cooler that it has frills and spits venom. Like,
Oh yeah.
Like, this is the coolest part of the movie. Just relax. Have a beer.
Have fun with it. It's crazy.
Have a beer. Get fucked up, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Why are you not drunk right now, motherfucker?
Yeah. Come on.
Cope continued his bad habit of rushing to publish his discoveries and even bought his own scientific journal to keep up with his load.
Damn,
His
that's
load.
a good idea. I would buy my own scientific journal. This is like Citizen Kane, right? Controlling the media.
Yeah, straight up. Yes. Yeah.
We're like
this is manufactured consent.
Chinatown with the water, but it's bone.
Yeah. I was saying this is also like roughly the same time period too. I'm like, this is There Will Be Blood, except there's a river of dinosaurs under my feet.
Yeah.
And only I can get at it. Cope published 76 academic papers between 1879 and 1880 and a staggering 1,400 articles total during his lifetime. So he's like L. Ron Hubbard. He's just shitting these things out, man.
No one knows they're wrong yet.
Right. Yeah. Because this is all brand new science. This is the 1870s and early 1880s. So everything is brand new. People are like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild to think of a time where no one even knew dinosaurs existed.
That was a question at trivia one week. True or false? George Washington knew what dinosaurs were.
The first dinosaur was discovered in the
early 1800s, and Washington died in 1799, so he would have never heard the word.
Except about his ex-wife. You know what I'm talking about? Come on. I'm just kidding.
Well, she outlived him. Talking Martha. There's some accounts that claim that Cope and Marsh were so competitive they stole from one another and reportedly destroyed any leftover bones from a dig site with dynamite just to prevent the other from falling into the wrong hands.
They're evil. These guys are not good people.
They get all the complete skeletons they can. There's still bones in the ground. They're like, fuck you, and they blow up the site.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk trying to get to the fucking Mars.
I mean, yeah, definitely. This is some shit Elon Musk would absolutely do. Jeff Bezos would secretly do it.
Yeah.
Cope, as it turned out, wasn't the only one making embarrassing mistakes in his rush to outpace his adversary. When Marsh discovered a long-necked dinosaur in 1877, he named it Apatosaurus. But the incomplete specimen was missing its skull, so Marsh just guessed that a skull found elsewhere belonged to the Apatosaurus. Unfortunately, it was actually the skull of Camarasaurus, and when he examined it, he named it Brontosaurus. And it was actually just an Apatosaurus with a different skull, but that's why you get those two names are still referred to as the same creature now because of this fuck up.
Right.
I don't hear anyone refer to either of these ever.
You think Brontosaurus?
I think the most common is probably Brachiosaurus, right?
Yeah, man, Brontosaurus. That was like the go-to.
That was the go-to.
Yeah,
but I just never hear this discussed these days. I'm going to be honest.
Brachiosaurus is my favorite.
Unless I'm talking to Kurt or Rivers.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sauropod?
Sauropod? I mean, it's going to be hard to beat the Titanosaurus I saw in Chicago, which is a little bit bigger, but same family, I guess. Their descriptions of the new species based on their reconstructions led to confusion and misconceptions that lasted for decades after their death. Damn. So people are still fucked up by this. As the two smeared one another in publications, the biggest casualties were Cope and Marsh themselves. By 1882, Marsh had become head paleontologist at the new U.S. Geological Survey, and his political connections allowed him to financially cut off Cope from government funding that was essential to his work.
Damn.
So this is
money wars.
Straight up, dude. Yeah. And he even tried to have Cope's fossils seized on the grounds that they had been collected with federal money and thus belonged to the government.
Oh, wow.
So this guy's a fucking I mean, they're both assholes.
He's coming at you with money, with the cops, with the feds.
Tried to take his bones, man. Cope fought back in a particularly vicious way in 1890. For years, he had been collecting information. Records of nefarious, underhanded dealings and accusations of scientific impropriety to use against Marsh. And he turned them over to a freelance journalist at the New York Herald, an eager purveyor of scandals. And the headline says, "Scientists wage bitter warfare." And this set off a firestorm.
Wow.
So this guy's like Kendrick, just taking notes for 10 fucking years, just waiting to drop it.
Yeah.
And then he finally dropped it. And the public battle lasted for 2 weeks. And so they're writing letters back and forth in the paper. And Marsh and his allies in the U.S. Geological Survey were publicly accused of corruption, incompetence, and misuse of government funds. Congress investigated and eventually cut the budget entirely for their paleontology department.
Wow.
Marsh was fired and forced to hand over his fossil collection. And for his part, Cope attempted to make up for his losses in a silver mining opportunity in New Mexico, but lost everything in the venture.
Oh, wow.
So I think this is a classic story about greed, too.
Yeah.
Both of them are fucking broke. Both of them lost everything because they...
basically because of their ego.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. This is, a Pyrrhic victory on both parts, which is kind of amazing. So now a divorced and destitute morphine addict, somebody eventually bought some of Cope's collection, but he died presumably of a UTI from what it seems like.
His penis hurt and
he
died.
He had some kind of piss disease. And he died at the age of 56 in 1897. On his deathbed, Cope issued a final challenge to Marsh. he would have his skull donated to science so his brain could be measured, hoping his brain would be larger than that of his adversary.
Phrenologist, too.
Yeah, he was doing phrenology. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, he was doing phrenology, but also it's just funny. Like, let's wear our brains,
Motherfucker, measure your cock, measure your brain. Let's fucking do this, pal.
It's also sad that that's the last thing he's thinking about before he dies.
Yeah, he's
like,
thinking about a guy he hates.
Yeah, still.
I mean, if you
Jesus.
went completely, the other guy was thinking about him all the time too, for like 20 years straight. You know?
Oh yeah. So Marsh never accepted the brain challenge, but he did die of pneumonia 2 years later at the age of 67. He had $186 in his bank account at the time,
Lord.
and over
That's
80.
pretty good.
Yeah, I guess in
Just having a bank
1880s.
account, you're probably a baller.
yeah.
Living in a place where there's a bank, woof.
Over 80 tons of Marsh's personal fossil collection was acquired by the Smithsonian, and Marsh left the bulk of his collection to the Peabody Museum at Yale. And it's safe to say there was no real winners of the Bone Wars, but judging by pure numbers, Marsh won. He discovered 80 new species, and Cope discovered 56. Between them, they discovered Allosaurus, Stegosaurus, Triceratops, Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, and many more.
Damn.
So
They really did do some good, you know?
yeah, exactly. It just took fucking years to
Yeah.
literally sort out the mess that they made.
Took till their death.
Yeah.
And then
Way
afterwards,
past.
Way
Yeah.
past, yeah.
Because he says they have 80 tons, so you have to go through 80 tons of rocks to be like, okay, they totally fucked this up. This
Yeah.
one goes here, this one goes here, kind of a
yeah,
thing.
and then you're still guessing.
I do love old outdated dinosaur art from like
Love that shit.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that park in London that has the old recreations of that?
I think I've seen photos before.
It's amazing.
yeah,
I want to
they-
go there so bad.
Part of me thinks there's something like not that I wish they looked like that, but like they do look like cool creatures like when they're like I don't know.
Well,
outdated.
they were trying to make him look badass.
Yeah,
You know, and I love that they went for that.
Yeah.
We want the dinosaurs to look badass. We want to imagine that they look cool
Yeah,
as fuck.
Yeah, the Crystal Palace dinosaurs. That's what it is. Yeah, they're just all like completely based on them putting their bones together incorrectly. So they have these like giant
Yeah.
hands
Shoulders.
and stuff like that.
the giant heads too. The
Yeah.
big heads.
They're like, yeah, it looks like an iguana, but a dog also.
Yes, it's a dog iguana. Totally. Yeah, I'm dying to go there. If anybody got any UK listeners that find themselves over at the Crystal Palace dinosaurs, hit us up. I want to see some pics. That's one of the cool things about the Field Museum in Chicago is they do have all of those old, like in the main gallery with all the bones. They do have just a giant mural of the
cool.
old where all the dinosaurs are balancing on their tails.
Yeah, instead of,
you know.
isn't there that really one famous one where the head is like part of a triceratops on like a like
Rivers is hitting a crazy Google search right now.
Yeah.
Antiquated dinosaur art.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I love those
The iguanodon.
The iguanodons are so cool looking. Old Stegosaurus art is
Yeah.
really cool looking too, and like
I
yeah.
had some of these books. Like there was a point in time.
Every school had these books.
Yeah.
I
Totally.
remember looking at books at school and they had all these same fake dinosaurs in them.
Yeah.
And the teachers would teach us as if they were real because everyone thought they were at the time.
Yeah, like the one thing that kind of like I wish was true is I do love how scientists thought that sauropods like long necks they could only live in swamp and water because their legs were so short compared to the rest of the body they couldn't actually stand upright outside of the water.
Right.
And you'll see in all those old outdated dinosaur art books that like the long necks always in swamps with like
Yes. Yeah.
like leaves from the swamps, and I'm like, this is kind of sick. This looks cool.
I love all that old shit is cool. And yeah, if you go to the Field Museum in Chicago, they've got that big artwork, which is awesome. But that's the Bone Wars.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have to read the book. I've never read the book, but it's been on my list.
I mean, after hearing that, these guys clearly, you're going to hear every single detail of these madmen's crazy thoughts.
Yeah.
I bet they both kept journals where they talk shit
Meticulous, yes.
about one another and all sorts of stuff.